a black teen earns a once-in-a-lifetime spot in North Star Airways' elite pilot program. But the moment he sits in the pilot lounge, a senior pilot points at him and screams, "He's an intruder, a spy," and has him arrested in front of everyone. But when this case reaches Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, the truth he uncovers leaves everyone speechless. Was this kid really a threat, or was he the victim of something far more disturbing? Before we begin, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment which state you're watching from. Let us get into it. Elijah Carter sat quietly in the Pilot S lounge of Providence Sky Harbor Airport, his shoulders tense, but his eyes glowing with a calm, determined spark. The oversized leather chair almost swallowed his slim 16-year-old frame as he held his phone and replayed a documentary about aircraft engine acoustics, something he had memorized long before he ever stepped foot in an airport. His brand-new guest ID hung proudly from his neck, stamped with the silver logo of North Star Airways Cadet Program, the most competitive youth aviation mentorship in America. He had beaten out nearly 800 applicants. He had worked nights at a Mechanic-S garage, studied cockpit layouts from old manuals, and memorized ATC communications for fun. Today was supposed to be his first official shadow day with a commercial pilot. But the lounge felt colder than he'd imagined. No one sat near him. A few pilots glanced over and whispered under their breath. Still, Elijah kept to himself, headphones in, shoulders relaxed, just waiting for his assigned mentor, Captain Laura Green, to arrive. Then the door swung open. Captain Rebecca Whitman strode in with the confident, sharp energy of someone used to commanding a flight deck and a room. Tall, blonde, mid-40s, her uniform crisp and spotless. She scanned the lounge, and her eyes froze when they landed on Elijah. Her expression hardened instantly. She stepped toward him with quick, clipped footsteps. "Hey, you," she barked. "This area is for crew only. You can be here." Elijah paused his video and pulled off his headphones slowly, unsure if she was speaking to someone behind him. I have an ID," he said gently. "I am waiting for I done a care," she snapped. "Show me that badge." He handed it over with trembling fingers. Rebecca snatched it, her jaw tightening as she examined it. A forged cadet badge? Creative, she muttered loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. A couple of pilots glanced over. Elijah's stomach flipped. "That S not forged," he whispered. "North Star mailed it to me last week. I earned that spot." Rebecca leaned closer, her voice dripping with suspicion. "You think I am stupid? Teenagers sneak in here to take photos, record conversations, spy on operations. You're trespassing. I'm literally just sitting here. Save it." She pressed her radio button. "Security to Pilot S lounge," she ordered sharply. "We've got an unauthorized intruder." The word hit Elijah like a slap. Intruder. 2 airport security officers arrived within seconds, hands resting on their belts. Passengers in the hallway began peeking in. Phones came up. The humiliation crawled into Elijah's bones. Rebecca pointed directly at him. He refused to leave. Could be a threat. Could be filming us. Elijah's voice cracked. "I wasn't filming anyone." He lifted his phone to show nothing but a paused documentary, but one security guard stepped forward instantly. "Put the phone down," the guard ordered. "Hands where I can see them." Elijah froze. His chest tightened. People stared as though he had done something monstrous. "Sir, please, I didn't. You can explain downtown," the guard said. Before Elijah could even grasp what was happening, his wrists were pulled behind his back. Cold metal cuffs clicked shut. The humiliation burned across his face. Passengers murmured. Some snickered. Rebecca folded her arms, satisfied. As they pushed Elijah out into the public concourse, he caught his reflection in the glass wall, a terrified kid. Handcuffed as though he were a criminal. The officers walked him toward the exit, cameras flashing, the entire airport watching. But something else was happening too. A man in a dark jacket sat near gate B-17, watching the scene unfold with furrowed brows, someone who recognized Elijah from a different place, a different time. Someone who knew this arrest didn't make sense. He stood up slowly and followed them. Because the truth Elijah carried the truth, no one in that lounge cared to hear, was about to explode inside a federal courtroom. And Judge Frank Caprio had no idea that his next case would shake the entire airport and expose a secret bigger than anyone imagined. The police cruiser rolled through the late afternoon streets of Providence, its sirens silent, but its lights casting uneasy blue reflections across the windows. Elijah sat in a back, cuffed, the vinyl seat cold against his palms. His throat burned from holding back tears. He had dreamed of this world all his life, airports, pilots, engines, runways, but not like this. Never like this. Officer Dalton, the older of the two officers, kept glancing at him through the rearview mirror. "Kid, you should be just left when they told you," he muttered. "I wasn't doing anything wrong," Elijah whispered. Dalton didn't respond. The other officer, Ramirez, was younger, quieter, but his eyes softened slightly. He knew something felt off, but procedure was procedure. When they arrived at the station, Elijah was fingerprinted, photographed, and asked to empty his pockets. He tried to explain again and again that North Star Airways had accepted him into their cadet program, that his mentor was literally in the building, that this was all some huge misunderstanding. Most officers ignored him. One smirked and said, "Yeah, sure, kid. And I am the president." Hours later, he was sitting in a holding room, hands still trembling, when the door opened. A tall man with tired eyes and a pressed gray jacket stepped in. It was the man from gate B-17. Elijah Carter? His voice was calm, measured. Elijah nodded, confused. "I am Marcus Grant," the man said, pulling out a small badge. "Senior Investigator, FAA Compliance Division." Elijah stared. "You followed me from the airport." "Yes," Marcus said, taking a seat across from him. "Because what happened in that lounge looked wrong. Very wrong. So before they book you into lockup for the night, I need to hear what you were doing there." Elijah swallowed hard. "I wasn't doing anything," he said. "I was waiting for my mentor. I had permission." Here, he reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded acceptance letter, his hands trembling. "North Star chose me. I worked so hard. I didn't sneak in. I didn't spy. I just wanted to learn." Marcus unfolded the letter. "Read it twice." His eyebrows narrowed. "This is legitimate," he said quietly. Elijah blinked. "You believe me?" "I don't believe or disbelieve," Marcus said. "I verify. And what I see here doesn't match what that pilot filed in her report." "What did she say?" Marcus hesitated. "She accused you of using falsified credentials to get access to restricted flight crew areas. She also claimed you were secretly recording crew conversations." Elijah's heart dropped. "I wasn't recording anything. I was watching a documentary." Marcus leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Kid, I've seen a lot in this job. Bias, power trips, cover-ups. But this feels personal." Before Elijah could speak again, Officer Ramirez knocked and peeked into the room. "Grant, the kid is scheduled for arraignment tomorrow. Judge Frank Caprio. They're moving it fast." Marcus stood, his jaw tightening. "Do not book him further tonight. I am filing a hold request. There is more to this case." Ramirez nodded, then closed the door. Marcus crouched down, so his eyes met Elijah S. "I need you to listen carefully," he said. "Tomorrow in court, you must tell the truth, every detail. Don't leave anything out, because something about that pilot feels off." Elijah clutched the edge of the table. "Will they let me go?" Marcus S.'s voice turned softer, almost protective. "That judge is fair. If anyone can cut through this mess, it's Frank Caprio." But outside the station, the storm was already building. Captain Rebecca Whitman sat in her car in the parking lot, gripping her steering wheel so tightly her knuckles whitened. She watched the station's front doors. She wasn't done. Her radio crackled someone from the airline's headquarters, speaking in a hushed tone. "Rebecca, you need to stick to your statement. If this blows up, everything we've built could collapse." Rebecca closed her eyes, her breath shaking. I know. I just didn't expect him to show up again." "Then you make sure the judge never learns why," the voice warned. She ended the call. Because there was something Rebecca Whitman feared more than scandal, more than public embarrassment, a truth buried in her past, tied directly to Elijah Carter. A truth she never wanted the world to know. And tomorrow, in a crowded courtroom, that truth would begin to crack open. The morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows of Providence Municipal Court, warming the marble floors and illuminating the polished wood benches. The room buzzed with quiet conversations, lawyers adjusting their files, police officers briefing each other, families whispering anxiously. But everything felt distant to Elijah as he sat in a small waiting area outside Courtroom 3, his hands clasped tightly together. Marcus Grant stood beside him, calm and steady. "You'll be fine," Marcus said. "Just answer honestly. Don't let anyone intimidate you." Elijah nodded, though his heartbeat thudded in his ears. He had never been inside a courtroom before, never imagined he would enter one as a defendant. The courtroom door opened. "Case of Rhode Island versus Elijah Carter," the clerk called out. Elijah felt his stomach drop. Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let us go." They stepped inside. The courtroom's atmosphere shifted the moment Elijah walked in. People stared, some whispered, a few scoffed, clearly already convinced he was just another troublemaker. But one man watched with soft, curious eyes, the judge himself. Judge Frank Caprio. He adjusted his glasses, observing Elijah with a measured calm. "Good morning," the judge said gently. "Let us take our time with this one." Elijah felt something inside him loosen. That tone, it wasn't harsh, wasn't accusing. It was human. The prosecutor, a sharp-faced attorney named Diane Holt, rose from her table. "Your Honor, this is a straightforward trespassing and security breach case involving the defendant, an unauthorized minor, who illegally entered the pilot's lounge at Providence Sky Harbor Airport and refused to leave." Judge Caprio held up a hand. "Let us hear the full story before we start calling anything straightforward, shall we?" His eyes drifted to Elijah. "Young man, step forward." Elijah approached the podium slowly. "State your name," the judge said. "Elijah Carter, sir." "Elijah, how old are you?" 16. Judge Caprio's gaze softened slightly. "And what were you doing in the pilot's lounge?" Before Elijah could speak, the courtroom door swung open. Captain Rebecca Whitman strode in wearing her full uniform, heels clicking sharply against the floor. She carried a confident, almost triumphant aura, like she expected this entire room to bend to her authority. The prosecutor signaled her. "Your Honor, this is Captain Rebecca Whitman, senior pilot at North Star Airways and primary complainant." Judge Caprio nodded. "Captain, you may proceed." Rebecca stepped forward, chin raised. "Your Honor." This young man was sitting inside a secure pilot lounge with a falsified cadet badge. When confronted, he refused to leave. Given recent sabotage threats at multiple airports, I treated his behavior as a potential risk. Elijah's throat tightened. "That is not true." "Let him finish," the judge said calmly. Rebecca continued, her voice rigid. "He was using his phone suspiciously, possibly recording crew conversations. I acted according to protocol." Marcus leaned toward Elijah, whispering, "Dante, react. Let her speak." Judge Caprio turned to Elijah. "Now, son, it is your turn. Tell me exactly what happened." Elijah took a breath. "My badge wasn't a fake. I was invited. I got into the North Star Cadet program after months of studying. They mailed me the ID. I was waiting for my mentor, Captain Laura Green. I wasn't filming anything. I was watching a documentary about aircraft engines." Murmurs rippled through the room. Judge Caprio raised an eyebrow. "Do you have proof of this program acceptance?" Marcus stepped forward. "Yes, Your Honor." He handed over the official North Star acceptance letter. Diane Holt frowned. "Your Honor, that could still be forged before she finished." The judge examined the letter, then tapped the embossed seal with his finger. "The real seal, the irrefutable proof. It appears authentic," he said. Rebecca's jaw tightened. Marcus cleared his throat. "Your Honor, I am FAA Compliance Division. I verified both the program and the badge. It is legitimate." Gasps followed. Rebecca's face paled. Judge Caprio's tone shifted. "Captain Whitman, this young man was authorized to be in that lounge. Why did you assume he wasn't T?" Rebecca stiffened. He didn't look like a cadet. Most cadets are well prepared, polished, professional." "Polished, professional." Elijah knew exactly what she meant. Judge Caprio leaned forward. "Captain, be very careful. What exactly did he not look like?" Rebecca hesitated. He just didn't fit the profile. The judge's gaze hardened. The profile. Interesting. Before he could continue, Marcus stepped forward again. "Your Honor, with your permission, I'd like to submit additional information that may shed light on the Captain's motive." Judge Caprio nodded. "Proceed." Marcus opened a folder and pulled out a document. "I discovered a disciplinary complaint filed 16 years ago involving Captain Whitman, an internal HR case about inappropriate conduct toward a junior mechanic named Leonard Carter." Elijah froze. His father's name. A low murmur swept through the courtroom. Judge Caprio's eyes widened slightly. "Captain, is this true?" Rebecca's lips trembled. "That has nothing to do with Marcus cut her off." "It does. Because Leonard Carter is Elijah's father." The entire courtroom gasped. Judge Caprio leaned back slowly, understanding dawning across his face. Rebecca Whitman wasn't just suspicious. She was hiding something personal. And Elijah Carter's arrest may not have been accidental at all. A suffocating silence fell over the courtroom. Rebecca Whitman stood frozen, her flawless pilot-esque composure cracking for the first time. Elijah felt his pulse hammering in his throat, his eyes darting between the judge, Marcus, and the woman who had humiliated him in front of an entire airport. Judge Caprio folded his hands slowly. Captain Whitman, you will answer Investigator Grant S. question. Is it true that you previously had a disciplinary complaint filed against you by a man named Leonard Carter? Rebecca S. lips parted, but no words came out. Her shoulders trembled ever so slightly. Finally, she exhaled. Yes, she whispered. The courtroom erupted whispers, shocked gasps, murmurs bouncing off the walls. Judge Caprio tapped his gavel once. Order. Rebecca struggled to regain her composure. That incident was a misunderstanding, she said. It has no relevance here. Marcus spoke before the judge could. Your Honor, with all due respect, it is highly relevant. According to this record, he held up the document. Captain Whitman made repeated derogatory remarks toward Mr. Carter, calling him unfit, unqualified, and undeserving of working around aircraft. Comments that were racially motivated. A chill spread through the room. Marcus continued, voice steady but firm. The inquiry concluded that she had displayed racially biased behavior toward a black mechanic on multiple occasions. She was suspended for 6 weeks and ordered into corrective training. Rebecca shut her eyes as though the room were collapsing around her. Judge Caprio fixed her with a sharp, penetrating stare. And now, years later, you falsely claim his son, an accepted cadet, is an intruder? You accuse him of espionage? You have him arrested? I didn't know who he was. Rebecca snapped, desperation cracking through her words. I didn't know he was Leonard S. son. Marcus stepped forward. That's the most troubling part. Because he pulled out a second document, you did. The room went dead silent. Marcus read aloud. North Star Airways Cadet Program Mentor Assignment Request. Prefer to avoid pairing cadets related to former mechanic Leonard Carter. Request submitted by Captain Rebecca Whitman. Elijah S. breath caught in his chest. Rebecca stumbled back a step, her face draining of color. That request was private. How did you legal compliance audit? Marcus replied sharply. Every request made to avoid personnel interactions is logged. Judge Caprio lowered his glasses, voice deepening. Captain, did you single out this young man because of your past with his father? Rebecca's voice wavered. I didn't want complications. Complications? The judge repeated, leaning forward. You dragged a 16-year-old boy out in handcuffs in front of an entire airport. You humiliated him, traumatized him, branded him an intruder, all because you didn't want complications. Elijah felt tears sting his eyes, but he blinked them away. He would not break, not here, not now. The prosecutor, Diane Holt, tried to intervene. Your Honor, regardless of motives, the boy was still in a restricted area. Marcus slammed a file onto the table. No, he wasn't. He held up a laminated page. North Star S own onboarding documents list the Pilot S Lounge as an approved waiting zone for cadets. The captain would have known this. Rebecca S. eyes widened. I know, I thought. You thought what? Marcus shot back. That a black teenager couldn't have possibly belonged there? The courtroom murmured again. Judge Caprio spoke with a controlled intensity. Captain Whitman, this is your last chance to give this court an honest explanation. Rebecca's composure finally collapsed. She looked at Elijah, really looked at him for the first time. When I saw him sitting there looking so calm, so confident, wearing that badge, her voice cracked. All I could see was Leonard, the mechanic who almost cost me my career, the man who challenged me, reported me, hurt my pride. She wiped at her cheek, hands shaking. So when I saw his son, dressed like he belonged, I snapped. I didn't think, I just reacted. Elijah felt the air leave his lungs. She hated his father. She hated him because of something that happened before he was even born. Judge Caprio leaned back, his voice heavy. So instead of confronting your prejudice, you chose to punish a child for his father as past. Rebecca broke. I am sorry. But the words felt small, empty, too late. Marcus stepped beside Elijah. You don't get to sorry your way out of this, he said coldly. Judge Caprio took a long breath. This case has gone far beyond a simple misunderstanding. It raises serious questions about abuse of authority, racial bias, and the wrongful arrest of an innocent minor. He turned to Elijah. Son, I need you to tell me the truth now. All of it. When they arrested you, how did it make you feel? What was going through your mind? The courtroom grew still. Elijah swallowed, his voice low but trembling with raw honesty. I thought this was it, he said. I thought my dream was gone. I thought no matter how hard I worked, no matter what I achieved, someone would always look at me and see a threat. His voice cracked, but he kept going. I didn't fight back because I was scared. Not of prison, but of proving her right. I didn't want to be the angry kid they expected me to be. A few people in the audience wiped tears from their eyes. Judge Caprio nodded slowly, deeply moved. Thank you, Elijah, he said softly, for your courage. But the judge wasn't done. Now this court must decide what justice looks like. Everyone leaned forward. Because the next words Judge Frank Caprio would speak were about to change the fate of everyone in that room, including Elijah Carter and the disgraced pilot who tried to destroy him. The courtroom waited in breath-held silence as Judge Frank Caprio slowly adjusted his microphone. His gaze swept across everyone present, Elijah, Marcus, the prosecutor, and finally Captain Rebecca Whitman, whose entire body seemed to shrink under the weight of what she'd done. Judge Caprio cleared his throat, his voice calm but edged with unmistakable gravity. This court has heard enough to understand exactly what happened. This was not a security breach. This was not a trespassing case. This was a failure of judgment, a weaponization of authority, and a painful reminder of how prejudice, old and unresolved, can poison important institutions. Rebecca lowered her head, tears slipping down her cheeks despite her effort to appear composed. The judge continued. Elijah Carter is not a criminal. He is a young man pursuing one of the most noble and demanding dreams one can have, to be a pilot. And instead of encouragement, he was met with hostility and humiliation. He leaned forward slightly. This ends today. He struck his gavel lightly, not as a punishment, but as a declaration. All charges against Elijah Carter are hereby dismissed fully and permanently. A ripple of relief burst through Elijah's chest. His knees weakened. Marcus steadied him with a firm hand in his back. But the judge wasn't finished. Now, Judge Caprio said, turning his attention sharply toward Captain Whitman, I must address the issue of accountability. Rebecca's breath hitched. Captain Whitman, your behavior toward Mr. Carter, both Leonard years ago and Elijah, now reflects a deeply concerning pattern. You abused your authority, falsified a security incident, and orchestrated the arrest of a minor who had every right to be in that lounge. She squeezed her hands together. Your Honor, I was wrong. I know that. And I am prepared to accept the consequences. Judge Caprio's voice softened, but did not waver. Your apology comes too late to erase what you did. But it does matter. However, this court cannot ignore the damage caused not just to Elijah's dignity, but to public trust. He turned to the clerk. This court will be forwarding all evidence to the FAA and North Star Airways for immediate internal review. Captain Whitman's actions warrant disciplinary investigation up to and including suspension or removal from duty. Rebecca inhaled sharply, tears finally spilling freely. For the first time, her pride, her armor collapsed entirely. But something unexpected happened. Elijah, hearing her begin to break, took a small step forward. "Your Honor, may I say something?" Judge Caprio nodded. "You may." Elijah turned to Rebecca. Despite everything she had done to him, despite the humiliation, the fear, the pain, his voice held no hatred. "Captain Whitman," he said quietly, "I don't want your life destroyed. I just want to fly. That is all I ever wanted. I want people to see kids like me as pilots, not threats. I want airports to feel like places where I belong, not places where I get handcuffed." He swallowed hard. "If there's anything I hope comes from this, it is that you all treat the next kid who looks like me differently. Fairly. That is all." For a moment, the entire courtroom forgot to breathe. Rebecca lifted her eyes, rimmed red. A shaky whisper escaped her. "I don't deserve your mercy." Elijah simply nodded. "Maybe not, but you needed to hear it." Judge Caprio took a long, thoughtful breath. "Well," he said softly, smiling faintly, "I think we all just learned something from this young man today." He addressed Elijah directly. "Young man, this court offers you not only an apology for what you endured, but a statement for the record. You were wronged, and you rose above it with a level of grace far beyond your years." He leaned forward, tone warm and proud. "If ever there was a young person who deserved the chance to fly, it is you." Then he turned to Marcus. "Mr. Grant, ensure North Star Airways receives the full report, including my personal recommendation that Elijah Carter resume his training immediately and without further obstruction." Marcus nodded firmly. "With pleasure, Your Honor." Judge Caprio tapped his gavel one last time. This court is adjourned. The crowd erupted not in noise, but in emotion. People wiped their eyes. Some clapped quietly. A few approached Elijah to congratulate him. But Elijah didn't move at first. He stood there, absorbing it. The courtroom, the victory, the validation he had never expected to receive. Marcus placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did good, kid." Elijah smiled through trembling breath. "Thank you for believing me." As they stepped outside the courthouse, the afternoon sun felt warmer than it had the day before. Reporters gathered, microphones raised, cameras flashing, but Elijah wasn't afraid anymore. He wasn't the boy handcuffed in an airport lounge. He was the boy who had faced a courtroom full of people, told the truth, and won. Marcus leaned in and whispered, "You know, most pilots have a story about the moment they really learned what it means to fly. I think this was yours." Elijah looked up at the sky. A plane cutting across the clouds, the engines humming, the wings gliding like freedom itself. For the first time in his life, he wasn't dreaming of flying. He felt like he already had. And that is how a young black cadet, wrongly accused and humiliated, walked into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom and walked out with his dignity restored, his dream protected, and his future brighter than ever. If Elijah's courage inspired you, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more real-life courtroom stories, and tell us in the comments which state you're watching from. Thank you for staying till the end. See you in the next story.